Welcome to News and Books, where we break down the world's most compelling stories with insight, depth, and analysis. I'm Eric. This week, the U.S. Navy confirmed two separate aircraft crashes, a MH-60R Seahawk helicopter and a A-18F Super Hornet fighter jet, both going down within 30 minutes over the South China Sea, one of the world's most sensitive and heavily contested airspaces. All crew members survived, but these twin accidents raise serious questions about safety, maintenance, and readiness within the U.S. military's Pacific operations. Joining me today is Commander Ryan Davis, a retired Navy pilot and aviation safety analyst who's flown both helicopters and jets from carriers like the USS Nimitz. Commander, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Eric. The reports from the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet confirm that on Sunday afternoon, both the MH-60R Seahawk and an A-18F Super Hornet from the USS Nimitz went down during routine operations. The Seahawk crashed first around 2:45 p.m. local time, during what's believed to be a standard training mission. About half an hour later, the Super Hornet also went down during separate exercises. Thankfully, all 5 personnel involved, 3 from the helicopter and 2 from the jet, were rescued alive by search and rescue teams.
That's an extraordinary coincidence, Commander. 2 crashes within half an hour from the same carrier. How often does that actually happen?
Extremely rarely. In aviation, especially naval aviation, we take redundancy and safety seriously. For 2 unrelated crashes to happen within minutes of each other suggests either operational stress, maintenance issues, or environmental factors that deserve a closer look.
This is the 4th FA-18 lost by the U.S. Navy this year, correct?
That's right. The Navy's lost several aircraft in 2025 already, and that's concerning. Over the last decade, we've seen a gradual increase in non-combat aviation accidents, not just in the Navy, but across the U.S. Armed Forces. Contributing factors include aging airframes, intense deployment schedules, and budget pressures that delay maintenance cycles. The Super Hornet fleet, for instance, is showing its age. Many of these aircraft have been flying since the early 2000s.
And let's not forget the South China Sea itself, a volatile theater with complex weather patterns, heavy military presence, and electronic interference possibilities.
Exactly. Flying in that region adds extra layers of risk: high humidity, sudden storms, and increasing military congestion, with Chinese, Philippine, and American aircraft often sharing the same airspace.
Commander, investigations are ongoing, but what are the most probable causes at this stage?
At this early point, everything's on the table. But generally, when both a helicopter and a fighter crash separately, we look at 3 broad categories: mechanical or maintenance failure, particularly if the carrier's maintenance cycle has been stretched; environmental conditions, weather, turbulence, or crosswinds during carrier operations; human error, often under intense workload conditions, especially during repetitive training drills. The Navy will analyze flight data recorders, the black boxes, and air traffic communications from the USS Nimitz to reconstruct what happened.
Do these aircraft, like the Seahawk and the Super Hornet, have similarities in operational systems that could hint at a shared fault?
Not really. They're very different machines, which makes this coincidence even more intriguing, and why the Navy's treating it very seriously.
Now, stepping back from the technical details, what does this mean strategically? These incidents happened in one of the world's most strategically charged waters.
That's right. The South China Sea is a geopolitical powder keg. The U.S. Navy operates there as part of its freedom of navigation missions, essentially asserting that these are international waters, not under China's control. So, when something goes wrong, even an accident, it can carry symbolic weight. Chinese state media has already picked up on these incidents, framing them as a sign of declining U.S. military readiness.
So even a technical mishap can be spun into a political narrative.
Exactly. It becomes not just about the crash, but about global perception of U.S. naval power.
From your experience, Commander, what happens next? And what lessons can be learned?
The Naval Safety Center and NTSB-style military investigators will dissect both accidents frame by frame. The goal isn't blame, it's prevention. Historically, crashes like these often lead to fleet-wide safety reviews, procedural updates, and sometimes temporary grounding of similar aircraft for inspection. What the public doesn't always see is how deeply the Navy's safety culture runs. It's one of the most self-critical organizations in the world when it comes to air safety. Every crash becomes a lesson for future crews.
A tragic but essential process of learning through failure. Commander Ryan Davis, thank you for your insights and your service.
Thank you, Eric. Always an honor.
2 crashes, 5 survivors, and a sea that never stops testing the limits of man and machine. We'll continue to follow this story as investigations unfold, and what it means for the balance of power in the Pacific. You've been listening to News and Books. I'm Eric. See you next time.